is Techstrong TV.
Hey everyone, welcome back here to Techstrong TV. I am happy to have a co-founder CEO here who I haven't had the pleasure of interviewing before, but I think he might have been on Techstrong TV a couple years ago even. Excuse me. Let me introduce you to Arthur Lozinski, and he is the co-founder and CEO of Oomnitza. I hope I got it right. Arthur, is that good?
You got it right, Alan. Thanks for having me on.
Perfect. Hey, man, pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much. Arthur, I always like to start off by letting our audience know who it is we're talking to, beyond their name, obviously, and title. If someone wanted to know, who is this guy, Arthur Lozinski? How did he get to be co-founder CEO? What would you tell him?
Well, it's thanks to the great team that I work with. You know, Trent, Ramin, and I started this company. So almost basically right out of college. Trent and I actually didn't even finish college. We were so excited about this opportunity. And the opportunity that we see in the market is for a new category to be created. We think that the IT ecosystem has been managed with tools that have been outdated, that have been used for a different world that we live in, and there's been a clear paradigm shift in the amount of technology that has come online, and there needs to be a new way to manage that technology. And so we couldn't give up the opportunity to make this happen.
So let's talk about that. How long ago was it that you kind of dropped out of college to follow your dream and your passion here?
Yeah, that's been a while now. I mean, we've been at this for, I want to say almost 12 years, 14 years almost. The
Really?
first years, yeah. I mean, the first few years were really around manufacturing execution software. We were looking at the world in terms of everything is going to be connected, everything is going to be a computer. We still think that that's the future, and we think that that's going to be a really exciting opportunity for this company down the line. What we realized pretty early on, working with various manufacturing companies, working with various industrial equipment that were on, as you know, PLC, SCADA, that type of stuff, we were exposing it over Internet Protocol. And what we realized pretty early on was that this isn't just a problem for industrial machines. This is a problem for all computers that we see today. And our customers are managing, I would say, probably 80% of the technology is what you would consider traditional compute infrastructure, networking, point of sale systems, end user compute. But the other 20% is industrial machinery. And that's a trend that's continuing to happen, which I think is a huge market opportunity for both our company and for our customers.
Yeah. Well, when we look at industrial machinery too, a lot of them, I forgot what company it was I had interviewed, but you can look at industrial machinery that was built to be connected versus industrial machinery that was not built to be connected, but nevertheless is being connected, right? And so you have sort of an IoT type of environment where you are grafting on, in some cases, connectivity, monitoring, management to these devices that, quite frankly, weren't even designed for that. But it's mission critical. And if you're going to do manufacturing and factories and monitoring, that you have insight into these machines. And it's a tremendous opportunity, both in terms of the greenfield, new stuff coming online, as well as the brownfield, this entire base of machinery that, some of it's really old, right? And some maybe not as old.
I think, Alan, there's a distinct, as you mentioned, I think you're absolutely right, there's a distinction between embedded technology and then augmented technology, like, a fridge that gets a computer attached to it versus one that comes OEM out of the box with it. But things like medium time to resolution and those types of things they're true in both the manufacturing aspect and in the IT aspect. It's not like your computer is in some ways embedded. And I know we don't necessarily think about it that way, or we didn't think about it that way, but it's becoming more obvious. If you get into a car today, some of them are really iPads with wheels on them. I mean, it's hard to.
They're more than iPads. There's hundreds and thousands of CPUs in today's cars. And I mean, I interviewed, I think it was a guy from Jaguar. Just the steering and suspension system is, I think, 4 million lines of code, right? That's crazy when you think about it. Crazy. Anyway, So let's hear. So how does Oomnitza kind of make it better? How does it solve the problems here?
Well, this is a really great stage that you say here for why there's the need for a new category. The challenge that most companies are facing today is that there's just too much influx of this technology. And the way that we've been managing this technology has been in a very antiquated sort of way. When you think about service management, just that concept, what it really is humans doing work. When you think about a work order, whether it's in IT as a ticket or a shop floor as a
Hmm.
work order, that's syntax for human execution. If I want a human to do something, I create a ticket, I create a work order. If I want a machine to do something, I write a line of code. And if we plan to manage the influx of technology with a code-based system, then we're going to need a new architecture. We're not going to be able to do it on a service management system. We're not going to be able to do it on a CMDB. Those are
Hmm.
antiquated technologies for the world we live in today.
Sure are. Sure are. Um, Arthur, I want to turn to this research and report and stuff that you guys recently put out. But before we do, just want to get it out of the way now. Oomnitza, for those of you out there, it's spelled Oomnitza. And I'm sure there's got to be a story behind that. You want to share that today or another time?
No, of course I'd love to, Alan. The word is almost like ether. It's kind of like the infinite intelligence. Umni is somebody who has that intelligence. And Umnitza is like a cutification. It's something that you would say to a kid if they got a really good grade. You'd be like, oh, you're such an Umnitza. And the idea behind it is that this is the next generation of enterprise software specifically for this problem. And we think that that is a very suitable name for the ambition of this business.
All right, I love it. All right, turn now to this recent research and report that you guys put out. Give us some background.
Sure. Well, we talked about the influx of technology and some of the problems that it creates. And there's problems in multiple vectors. There's, of course, a major security problem with this. There's a financial planning FP&A problem with this. There's a experience for the customer and also for our internal employees that comes with this. But one of the major issues is the compliance and audit that this creates. And this is a major topic today for a lot of businesses. Mainly, the inventory control requirements for compliance frameworks are growing, and our ability to manage the technology is shrinking, primarily because of the inadequate and old school technologies that we're trying to use to manage this.
Sure. Um, so what? Well, let's before we get into a specific finding, let's say, give me the background on how did you go about doing this research? Was it strictly your customers? Did you solicit others, or how? I know it was conducted by YouGov. It was your partner
Mhm.
on this, but if you can give us a little kind of set the stage there.
Yeah, sure. We've actually done a few of these with YouGov, and we've seen their philosophy and their process work really great. There are a number of customers of ours that have participated. There's also companies that are not customers of ours yet that have participated in this. The pool of companies is rather large. Most of them are enterprise companies that participate in this, and their ability to suss out what the pain points are very strong, as you can see in the actual report itself. Some of these things were new findings for us. We do this partially for our own understanding and for our own learning, but we like to share it, and we like to share it with the broader teams. I think that you mentioned what are the findings. The high level executive summary is that audit and compliance are a major problem on the technology side, and the report doesn't really go into why. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit with you because I think it'd be interesting for your audience. But
Sure.
the major challenge that companies are facing around the audit and compliance is really a database question, if you think about it. Because what is an audit? It is a snippet of your data set. In the inventory controls portion, the question comes down to what devices are where, what is the purchase order information about it, where has it been, depending on the compliance framework. And not having that information is a direct correlation to not having the data. And so if you're having compliance problems or you're having problems being audit ready, you know, what does audit ready mean? It means we're going in to clean the data. We're going in to clean the database. So there's an underlying question of why are we having problems with compliance? Why are we having problems with this data? And what can we do about it?
Absolutely. So let's dive into some of these results. I always like to say, what are the three biggest takeaways here? And Arthur, line that up to, concrete metrics that the report showed,
Sure,
if
yeah.
you can.
So I would say that, look, the number one thing, Alan, is that we are dealing with way more technology than we ever have before. There's not going to be less technology. I mean, you talked about the Jaguar car, right? Like the lines of code is incredible, but also the amount of sensors that is in those cars. In the new Porsche Taycan, like there's something like 6 million different sensors. I mean, it is insane how many of those are in the car, and our IT departments are not any different. You think about the SaaS applications, you think about the cloud infrastructure, you think about the on-premise infrastructure, end user computing, point of sale systems in retail environments, managed services that our teams have to manage. There is a number of technologies today that traditionally didn't exist. And what this report shows, and maybe is already intuitive to a lot of your audience, is that the way we've been managing this technology is not going to scale. And the underlying infrastructure that we use to manage this technology is just inadequate. And so what we need to do, we think, as a company, us specifically as a SaaS service provider, but we think the broader market as a whole, is to start looking at the different technologies that we have and find a way to manage it all in one single database. Because what ends up happening is you have these fragmentation of technology. Like, where do you manage your cloud infrastructure? That's a separate database. Where do you manage your SaaS applications? That's a separate database. Where do you manage your end user compute? That's a separate database. And the problem that arises from that is a business process, something simple like a refresh or an offboarding an employee or even onboarding an employee. These are processes that every company goes through. What are the challenges there? Well, those are all separate systems stitched together with tickets. So you end up having an IT professional jumping into your infrastructure system to try to remove somebody's access. You have somebody jumping into the SaaS system, and often multiple SaaS systems, to try to remove access and try to repurpose even some of that. There's a whole financial aspect. And on the compliance side, you then get to ask a simple question like, where is this? And you can't answer it. And why? It's because there's so much manual work sticking this all together. And so the need for a new category, the need for a new enterprise technology management system platform is becoming more and more evident. And so when we publish this research, we're doing it to make sure that we're on the right track. But what it's exposing is not only are we on the right track, but that this problem is getting bigger and bigger, and it needs to be solved today. And it's not going to be solved with IT service management. It's not going to be solved with a CMDB. You need a standalone technology management database, and that's what we provide.
Technology, repeat that for me, a standalone technology environment database.
Yeah, we call it a technology database, and it's really a technology management problem. And we like to use the term enterprise technology management because the enterprises are the ones that are hurting from this the most. The bigger the company, the bigger the problem. And the solutions today that exist, like the CMDB or IT service management, they're not tools that are built for this type of environment. They're not built for this amount of SaaS. They're not built for this amount of infrastructure. They're built for a world where you had on-premise services, where you're running email in-house. That's not the case today. Not only do you have a license to a subscription, maybe it's Microsoft 365, maybe it's Google, whatever it may be, the number of companies running email in-house is shrinking, and the number of services in-house are shrinking. And the tools they're using are not built for the type of world that we live in today.
Agreed.
So if you want to manage your technology management, if you want to be ahead of the game, you need to start thinking about a technology database, not a service database, not a ticketing database, but a technology database. Where are you housing your enterprise technology? Hence the name Enterprise Technology Management.
Got it. Good stuff. Arthur, for people who maybe, I know there's a great infographic that goes with this report. I had a look at it earlier. the report itself. People who want to get a hold of it, where did they go? Just to the regular website? Is there a specific URL? Where can we send them?
I would love to add one to the description of this video if you allow us to.
Sure.
Right now, it's on the front page of our website. You can go to oomnitza.com and you'll see the report right on the front page. We always post the newest, latest reports that we do. This one was on audit and compliance. We're planning on multiple other ones. We mentioned security. We mentioned the experience portion, the financial portion, the FP&A portion related to this. There is a ton of great resources, including this specific report on our website, oomnitza.com.
Excellent. And again, that's oomnitza.com. Hey,
That's right.
Arthur, I appreciate you coming on and talking with us today, man. Best of luck with Oomnitza, and we hope to have you back on soon.
Thanks, Alan. This was a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
A pleasure. All right. Arthur Lozinski here on Techstrong TV. Go check out oomnitza.com. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in a second.